And it's Ken Kraetzer for WVOX and Sons of the American Legion Radio. I have a chance to talk to a good friend of ours, a former NFL player and a business owner here in White Plains, Bob Hyland. Bob, always good to see you. We got a big football weekend with the Super Bowl on Sunday.
Thank you, Ken. Yeah, we're kind of excited around here. It's not the Jets or the Giants, but people are pretty excited about this game. It should be a very good one. You have two top-quality teams.
Absolutely. And Bob, just thought we'd take a moment. We always enjoy chatting and hearing about your career. And just start, if you would. You started competitive football at Stepinac High School right here on Mamaroneck Avenue in White Plains, and then went to Boston College. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Stepinac was a great school for me in many ways, not only from the standpoint of kicking off a rather successful football career. I had very good coaching there. My old friend Joe Sullivan was our head coach. But I also got a good education, and I was able to go to a very fine school in Boston College and continue my studies. So it turned out to be a pretty good combination for me. They gave us good educations, and also I was able to develop my football game where I was able to be drafted by the Packers, which was a great thrill for me.
How is it for you on balancing in college playing top football and your studies? A question we always ask cadets at West Point: how did you handle that in your era of playing college football at Boston College?
Well, I never had a problem with it because I gave it a high priority. I mean, my studies were number one. Football was kind of a sidelight, but it developed into something very good for me. But what I wanted more than anything else out of Boston College was to have a degree and to be able to go make a living at whatever it may be. It turned out to be football for 12 years. And now, of course, I've used my marketing background from BC to be involved in the life insurance industry, which I'm an agent for National Life Group. And as you know, I also own this establishment here, the Sports Page Pub. And it's been a lot of fun for the last, it's hard to believe, it's going on 33 years.
That's right, and we always enjoy coming over to the Sports Page. Now, you had the very interesting and complimentary occasion to be drafted in the first round of the NFL draft, and by the Green Bay Packers in the height of their top play, their championship year under Vince Lombardi in the 1960s. What was it like when you first heard from the Green Bay Packers and when you first went out there?
Well, you know, it's funny. Back in those days, it wasn't such a ballyhooed event as it is now. I remember I went to a class at BC. The draft was going to be at about 11 o'clock in the afternoon, and I went back to our dorm room and found out that I got drafted by Coach Lombardi. And after that, I went back for my next class, you know. So from the standpoint of surprise, it was terrific because I didn't hear anything from the Packers previous to the draft. I had heard from the Dallas Cowboys, the San Francisco 49ers showed a lot of interest, and I had a feeling it was going to be one of those clubs. But turned out that Coach Lombardi, who was one of the 7 blocks of granite, his line mate, Ed Franco, had a nephew who played football at Boston College, Nicky Franco, an old friend of mine. And when Ed came up to watch Nicky play, I guess I caught his eye, and he told Coach Lombardi, "You got to take a look at this kid out at Boston College." And he did, and they investigated, and I guess they went through everything you do, you know, watching film and trying to get a heads up on what type of a person the kid is and so forth, and they decided to draft me. So it's funny how that worked out, and I'm thrilled because even though I was only with Coach Lombardi for 2 years, it obviously was a tremendous experience for me.
And you were with some of the legendary players that era. Bart Starr, the quarterback, Jerry Kramer wrote a couple of books on the era at guard, and Ray Nitschke, who's a linebacker. So many other greats on the Packers of that team of the late 60s. Who were some of the people who stood out from your time with the Packers?
Well, it's just amazing how many great players there were out there and how many are in the Football Hall of Fame now. So many to the point where I think a guy who legitimately deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, Jerry Kramer, may never get there because there just are so many Packers from that era. I think they want to spread the wealth a little bit. But I was very, very impressed with Willie Davis, who was our captain, and I think the real true team leader on the club. Obviously, Bart was a quiet leader as our quarterback. He taught us all what the work ethic should be. There were so many great ones. Dave Robinson, who was just installed last year into the Hall of Fame, was a guy who I always got a tremendous kick out of because of his sense of humor, but also what he was able to do on the football field. I mean, you could go down that roster, and every one of these guys seemed to be not only interesting and great contributors to the team, but good people. A lot of these guys went on and had great success in other fields. So Coach Lombardi kind of teed us up very well.
Well, I was just going to ask you a little bit more about that. I was just reading the David Marianis book about Coach Lombardi when Pride Still Mattered, and he focuses on what he learned at West Point when he was an assistant coach for Colonel Blake, and what he learned, as you said, at Fordham. And he came to Green Bay and was known for being a perfectionist and for driving the players very hard, even after a win. What were some of the interactions that you had with Vince Lombardi? What were they like?
Well, Coach Lombardi was a perfectionist. He knew that you're never going to be perfect, but you should really do everything you can to approach perfection. And that was the way he conducted his life and the way he wanted us to practice and to play. Obviously, the first time I ever met him was when I had to travel out to Green Bay, and I had my agent with me, and we tried to negotiate a contract. And I found out he's a pretty tough businessman, for one thing. Excuse me, Ken. He not only was the coach, but he was the general manager and responsible for the profits of the Packers for that little community-owned team. And he tried to keep my salary down as much as he possibly could. But that was just the way it was back then. But I just loved playing for him. Learned so much as far as, what you have to do to prepare for anything really worthwhile competing in, whether it be playing football or running your business. I'm sorry. The fact that he drafted me #1 and then had so much confidence in me as a rookie, and I started 7 or 8 games for him, which was really unusual, and I just was very appreciative for that.
Well, Bob, one of the questions now about that era is the health and well-being of some of the players. The effects of concussion injuries, just the wear and tear, all the shoulder and hip and leg injuries that players accumulated. The NFL just reached a settlement on a certain amount of money that's going to help players with their health care from that era. Do you think that's enough? Is there more that needs to be done to help former NFL players, the greats that we saw playing for so long?
Ken, it's every now and then I have the opportunity to go back to Wisconsin, back to Green Bay or Milwaukee, wherever they might be having some kind of a remembrance or a reunion of the Ice Bowl team or whatever it might be. And it's almost sad to see how many of our players really are in tough physical shape. And I think we all understand that that's just the nature of the game, and if we had it to do over again, we probably would. But you would just like to think that the players would be well taken care of with the difficulties that they may have physically. I've had my hips replaced. I'm going to have my shoulders replaced and so forth. But fortunately, mentally, I'm still fine, but I've seen that a number of our top players from the old days are beginning to show the effects of Alzheimer's or whatever it might be, and that's what I'm most concerned with. Um, oh, I'm so sorry. um, the league has done something. At least they've taken a step forward. But the judge who listened to this case felt that the number that was being thrown around was way insufficient to take care of what may be a long line of professional football athletes who may have to contend with these mental things, with the physical things, and she wants a. It's unusual, but it was a woman who was the judge. Obviously, never played football, but realized that there's going to have to be a pretty large amount of money available to take care of all the ailments which could be coming to these individuals over the years.
Do you think there's a way that football could be made safer? I know there's a strong effort to avoid head injuries, contact with helmets in football. The referees are protecting quarterbacks and even the offensive linemen in a lot of cases. Is there something that can be done to make football safer to play?
Well, I think they are taking steps in that direction. When I was coming up through high school, college, and so forth, and I remember most significantly when I was playing for Jim Ringo, who was the offensive line coach for the Bears. I had been doing it instinctively, but he emphasized the fact that when you're blocking a guy or when you're tackling a guy, you're trying to hit him with your head. And if you hit him with your head, that's great because it's going to be a big hit. But even if you don't, at least you'll get him with the shoulder, So I think that's the way we approached the game was, you were just almost like a human battering ram, and it takes its effect after a while. But what they're going to have to do to try to mitigate this some is to obviously change blocking and tackling techniques. I think it could very well become more like rugby or something where people are, very physical and so forth, but you're going to see that the head is going to be taken care out of a lot of the techniques that we now have in recent years and even before that used to do. Obviously, the equipment is being upgraded all the time. That has to be done, of course. And I think you're going to see that the game is going to change from the standpoint of it almost being more like a rugby thing. Like I've noticed that the offensive linemen are not wearing the large pads that we used to and so forth. It's almost like big basketball players, the offensive and defensive linemen, big guys who can really move, and it's all a matter of angles and so forth. And there doesn't seem to be the concussions that there used to be, concussive moves, I should say, where people were hitting each other. It's a lot more like shielding and getting angles on people and so forth. And I think that may reduce the amount of big impact plays that occur.
Certainly, I know the NFL sponsored a program called Heads Up Football to teach young football players the safe ways to play the sport in blocking and tackling. Well, Bob Hyland, we have a big game on Sunday, the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots. You'll have a full house here at the sports page. Looking forward to that. What are your thoughts about the Super Bowl this year coming up on Sunday?
Well, it is a lot of fun here. We will have a full house, like you said, Ken. And what I really enjoy about it is the fans that we get here are very knowledgeable. They're here because they really are involved in the NFL. They understand the game, and I think they, as well as anybody else, are going to realize that this is a good matchup. It's a very good matchup. I think it might still be a pick'em by the professional handicappers and so forth, but when you look at these two teams, they're so well coached. They have so much talent. I just think it's going to be a very, very interesting 3.5 hours that we spend watching this game come Sunday. I'm looking forward to it. I personally feel that the Seahawks are going to have enough to win by maybe about 3 points. I'm thinking 24-21. I just like their defense a lot, even though they're a top-notch defense, I still think Brady is capable of scoring 21 or 20 to 21, 24 points for the Pats. But I just think the Seahawks are going to win this game. It's amazing that this is number 49. I played in one and I've watched 48, and it really is the zenith of the year as far as I'm concerned, as far as sporting events go.
And we've got to have you hold up your championship ring from the Green Bay Packers from Super Bowl II. Maybe just hold that up. That beautiful ring that you so proud of, I'm sure.
I do have my Super Bowl ring, but it's not with me today. This is my NFL Players Association ring. I wish I had the Super Bowl ring with me because Coach Lombardi busted the budget on that one. Very nice ring.
Well, we've seen it on other occasions, and maybe we'll have it here on Sunday for the Super Bowl, as you have a full house here at the Sports Page. Bob Hyland, always a pleasure to see you. Congratulations on being a Super Bowl champion, a very important distinction, and we'll look forward to seeing you on Sunday for the Super Bowl here at the Sports Page in White Plains.
Well, thank you, Ken. And it's always fun to get together with you, a guy who really appreciates sports and is knowledgeable about them, whether it be Army football, NFL football. It's always a pleasure, having a conversation with you about these subjects. Thank you. My
pleasure. This is Ken Kraetzer for WVOX and Sons of the American Legion Radio in White Plains at the Sports Page with Bob Hyland.